This week on New to You, Spring. Mates of State, Rearrange Us. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the New to You show. We are entering a new topic this week, spring. We'll let everyone sort of describe why their pick falls under that title. New to You is a rate and review podcast where we ask you to go rate and review us on iTunes.
Oh,
like that joke made me laugh when I recorded and edited a few weeks ago. But look at that, rehashing old bits and explaining them.
It's called a callback.
Yes, I'm calling back to a recent thing I just said.
Yeah.
Hey,
and we know
you
you
know-
have to do it again because of the rules of three, right?
Hey, it might not be new, but it could be new to you.
That joke, yeah, because you may have listened to this episode first. So, I am one of your hosts, John Holt. With me is...
Keith Allen Vincent.
Julian Cage.
Special guest, Mary Varn.
All right,
So
welcome back,
special.
Mary.
Very special.
All right, so Mary was on in our first season, and the listeners voted her off
Yep.
But I came back for Tearjerkers.
for the twist.
Yep. She came back and it was all a dream.
That's right.
The few seasons without her were all a dream.
That's right.
Yeah,
she
we
got
brought-
her revenge.
We brought her back to celebrate our most special episode, 104 or something.
It was 101 through 104.
So this is 101?
Yeah.
All
There you
right.
go.
Hey.
That's why we brought you back.
Which is the
'Cause-
real milestone, not 100.
Because the
Yeah.
one is for season one.
Sure.
No. It's like the thing where, what was it when they were saying when the millennium happened, it was actually supposed to be 2001
Like
or
why
something?
it should have been Y2K01.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
The Y2K01
Because they didn't count year
virus.
zero or something. I don't
right.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like new to you 101. You know?
Yeah.
Learning the basics. Back to basics.
All right. So one thing we do basically on this show is discuss topics and picks within those topics.
Yeah, we're real basic.
Yeah. We're real, just straight up. Middle of the road. So, Keith, you're up a deck first on this pick, yes?
Okay, yes.
You write the good songs, baby. You write the good songs, baby. All right until the end. All right until the end. And you can stand above us. And you can stand up above us. And we can still be friends. And we can still be friends. It's like a jigsaw, maybe. It's like a jigsaw, maybe.
Thank you for letting me go first, everyone. I appreciate that. Though, I gotta say, this is probably one that's the least appropriate for spring. I don't know. I'll leave it up to everyone else to decide. So our theme this month, or this section of the show is spring. A lot of ideas kicking around. For some reason, I always bring music because I'm always late to get my pick in, and everyone else has already picked movies. So I'm always like, well, I don't want to overrun it with movies. I guess like most times. I picked a record from a long time ago, just like most times. So sorry about that. But this one is actually new compared to a lot of them. It came out in 2008 by the band Mates of State, which I love very much. They started off as just a two-person band, well known for their really interesting melodies and amazing harmonies. So it's a married couple. Corey Gardner and Jason Hamill are the band members. They've been around since 1997. They met in college in Kansas, and there are plenty of songs about it that they've written. They were in a band together. That band fizzled. They were still together, and they made this group called Mates of State, and they've put out several records, really good stuff. They were living out in California when we moved out there, and I really associate a couple of their albums with that period of my life. Just like they are a little time. Each one of their records is a little time capsule for a section of my life. I consider their record "Rearrange Us," which came out in 2008, to be a very distinctive part of my life. And the reason why I associate it with spring is kind of like a rebirth. The record itself is all about change and upheaval and kind of coming out of the ashes. And that's my loose interpretation of spring for this one. Though the record did come out in springtime, and I did get it in the springtime, the events that occurred to me that I associate it with happened in the summertime. I was seeing this person for a really, really long time. We were old couple for a really long time. And then we broke up, and it was very, it was a major, major life change for all parties involved. And really, I was, as one does at this period, it was kind of like hard to kind of make a new routine, all that stuff. But this record came out, and I just kind of lost myself in it because it was one of those deals where every song you would connect with a certain aspect of like, that's just like what happened with me. Every track 4 is like what happened that one day. They know exactly what I'm feeling. So in every song, it kind of has that kind of an element to it for me from this record. I'm going to go into a little bit more about some of the stuff that I find really special about the band later. But a couple weeks go by, and I had settled into. I was staying with these really total jerks. Like I left. I kind of like I was paying for the apartment, but I let her stay there because we were trying to figure everything out. And so I went to stay with these just lousy people, Julian Cage and his girlfriend. I became a part-time vegan while staying at their house. But in all seriousness, that was a real great time. But what happened was Mates of State came to town for a concert. And I invited my landlords at the time, Jules and Zoya, to come see it. And I don't know, there was something about this live show that just kind of gave me it was just like a burst of optimism that just kind of like overwhelmed me during this live show. And I will never forget it. I mean, it's been 8 years, but it's still such a very like visceral, just recalling it gives me such visceral emotions about it. The record is called Rearrange Us. And it's from, like I said, 2008. Some of the things that make this band really special are it's just a two-piece band. They still write their songs, just the two of them together. And it's primarily when they're doing their demos, still some keyed instrument, usually an electric organ or a synthesizer, and drums, like old-fashioned trap set. But that in and of itself. So if you were to think of your standard two-person band from the 90s, you'd think, oh, well, that's just going to be like a stripped-down, pared-down, kind of fun, bouncy thing. But no, these people were like, we're going to be two instruments, but we're going to sound like a full band. And they really went out of their way to use the tools given to them to just really make these just amazing pieces of music that they're very dynamic and complex in that they have lots of parts. So all their songs really kind of build and crescendo and have like quiet parts and have yell backs and chants and like they just really go through the whole arsenal of fun like song elements. So there are lots of parts that you kind of want to chant back. There are parts that just make you want to dance, and there are parts that are kind of quiet that you gotta, that help you to build to the big action sometime in the song. That's usually referred to as dynamics, and all their songs are very dynamic for that reason. Going back to the very beginning, they've always been that way. So with the Rearrange Us record, they really started to expand and have like a horn section, and they really started bringing in other instruments and other musicians to a really good effect. I think that they as a couple and as people were getting older, and that's another thing that I love about them as a band is they're not trying to pretend to be young rock and rollers their whole life. They're continuing to write songs about themselves, and their lives are changing. Therefore, they're maturing as a band, and therefore their subject matter is changing. And I know it sounds silly, but I find that to be refreshing. It's not often that you have a band that, are singing about the same milestones in life that you're going through. Slightly. They're a little older than me, which I also like. Thank goodness, there's a band that's older than me that I like. But to have a band that isn't afraid to say, "Hey, we're getting older and we're having these feelings of nostalgia. We're getting older and we're having these feelings of questioning what our lives are going to be like now that we have kids." It's very. They're subjects that I think a lot of people go through. Everybody goes through these aging issues, but not a lot of bands, especially in rock and pop, are willing to kind of make that the subject matter that they are going to play in. And Rearrange Us does it, I think, amazingly. There's a continuing theme of the record, within the record, of kind of, I don't know, they've overcome something. So I've read a lot about this record in particular, and nobody ever mentions it, but it really seems like they kind of are dealing with something as a couple. Maybe there was some. It's in the subject matter of some of the songs is about infidelity and trust. And I don't know if this is kind of like a storytelling element, fiction or whatnot, but it really seems like they were on the edge of breaking up or divorcing or whatever, disbanding. And this record, I felt like was their therapy for getting through whatever that is, or like I said, it could all just be a story element. But whatever it is, I really related to it tremendously. I don't know, I could go through some specific tracks, but I don't think I would do it justice. I'm never very good at describing these things, other than to just say, every one of these songs takes you on a journey, and it's not necessarily a storytelling or a literal journey like as the story of the song or the lyrics. The songs themselves all have a build-up. They all have like ups and downs. Every song will have like the loud part, the quiet part, the stops, the like callbacks and the singbacks. It's all there. And one of the things that I really love about them is that they use non-words in their songs really well. Mm-hmm. Something about that always hooks me into songs. Like the doo-wop. The word doo-wop comes from old bands that would sing songs where the words are just doo-wop, doo-wop, ba-doo, da, ba-doo. They're not actual lyrics. They're just vocalizations. And this band does it really well. I guess pretty much all I can say about it is just give it a listen. They're an amazing band to see live. I really like. There's kind of a do-it-yourself aspect to a lot of their videos and to honestly a lot of their songs and the way they write their songs that I really miss and like. I think we get at that a lot from that time period. A lot of the picks we choose kind of have, well, me personally, a lot of the picks that I bring to the show, it often has this kind of do-it-yourself feel, or just like, heck, we can do this. And
like
I think
bedroom recording kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm not saying that to denigrate the quality of the recordings. They're all impeccable. But like if you watch the videos or if you hear they often include their demos, and it's really neat to hear the kind of we're just gonna sing this song till it gets right, and it's really nice. I could try to, but I've been listening to our show, and I realize I'm really bad at describing what makes these things good when it comes to music. But I would love to just kind of open it up to the floor, I guess, at this point.
Well, I'll jump in because obviously I also associate this particular album with the same time period and with you in particular. Yeah. So if the theme was Keith, I might pick this record. I also I've never gone to a ton of live shows, and I hadn't been to a live show in a long time when we went to that particular gig, and it was awesome. Like, it was so good. And I remember, like, there were a couple of opening acts that were, like, super lame, and when they came on, they just, like, blew us away. And, yeah, they're just incredible live. And that's the first time I ever heard them was in San Francisco live.
You did see them live?
Yeah.
So I was wondering that because I had thought that it was you that turned me on to them originally. So I'm glad to be, that it was you, and now I know that. Yeah,
it's hard to know. I mean, I may have heard of it from Plap or something. Like, I went with, I remember, a few people to that show, and there were a couple of different bands, and they really, like, made a huge impression on me. Yeah, and I also like this record a lot. I feel like in this album they matured in a lot of ways, and this is actually one of their more produced sounding records.
One of the first. The record after this, too, is very highly produced as well.
Yeah.
Mountaintops.
And they made that transition, like, really, really well. And I think also, like, their sound, because there used to be a lot more kind of call and response kind of stuff. And this one really had a different sound, but it worked really well, and I loved it. And then I saw them again when they were touring for this record at another festival, like Governor's Island or something. Mm-hmm. Again, it was awesome. So, yeah, see them live if you can. And, yeah, the other thing I want to point out, which you didn't mention, is that so he plays the drums, but he's also singing and harmonizing the entire time. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you do that?
The degree of difficulty for both of them is so high.
Yeah.
And they make it look effortless and fun. You know, that's the thing. None of their songs ever look like they're having to work at them. But it's just amazing what they're able to do. And when you hear their old records where it's just two of them, and you're like, this, this has got to be recordings. It has to be multi-track or something like that. It's not. Like, these people can pull it off. Like, just the two of them, it's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds exactly the same
Yeah.
live, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, they're both super talented. Yeah, and I also really like the themes in this album, and it really feels like an album. Like, all the songs fit together thematically and sonically, and in general, the dynamics thing that which you pointed out. Like, I didn't really know how to describe it, but
Yeah.
it's totally that, and that's part of what I love about it too. It's like, it's always like
each
super,
song has often multiple melodies that kind of different parts that happen within the song that are different melodies, and they all kind of come together in a very kind of like exuberant way that just makes you want to kind of dance almost without fail.
Mm-hmm.
You said something that made me think of the record is called Rearrange Us, and I feel like that they were probably at a part in their career, in their musical like arc, in the arc of their musical career, where they kind of had to rearrange what they were doing as well. They were like, how long can we pull off this like really fun, super cutesy dance stuff? We kind of have to let more of show a different side of ourselves too. And I think that's an element in this record.
Yeah, it's definitely a great record if you're at a crossroads in your life, or everything's.
Well, if you're at a crossroads in your life and
things are changing,
yeah, but it can't be because honestly, we've all been in crossroads of our lives where we kind of want to dwell in it, and we want to kind of just say like, you know what, I'm gonna allow myself to be sad and play some Cure records for like a couple weeks,
Yeah, it's not like that.
No,
Yeah, not at all.
but this is also just as important of an element where you're just like, okay, I'm over that part. Now I want to try to, rearrange.
Yeah, it's nice because it's like it's about change, but it's like they've gone through it, and so it's
They're coming out of the winter
into
into
spring.
Neither here nor there, I guess, but they had moved from California to Connecticut, and this was the first record
to the suburbs.
Yeah, to their first record where they didn't live in California, and they literally were in the wintertime for the first time since they lived in Kansas. So it was literally the spring when they came out of this, because it was eternal spring before that, living out in sunny, always, because it's always sunny in San Francisco, right? It never like rains or fogs or anything, right? Yeah,
always.
Yeah,
Mary, what about you? Had you heard this album before?
Yeah. When I was listening to it again for this, I realized it's one of those albums where I don't think I ever owned this, or I don't know if Spotify was around. I don't think it was around then, but when I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this a million times because it's so catchy, and I really like it. I just feel like I've heard this a million times, but I don't know when. So I think it's just that catchy because I just remember it. I kind of have that with a lot of bands where I'm just like, I know this whole record by heart, but it's just kind of in my whole like batch of songs from that band. I don't associate it as one record. It's just, add another pile to this great body of work. The band Spoon is like that. I couldn't tell you the name of any of their records, but I have a big like pile in my iTunes playlist that's all Spoon, and I'm just like, I don't know which ones are records. They all just kind of go together. Yeah. But yeah, so I really like it. I don't know what any of the lyrics mean. Honestly, a lot of their songs leading up, a lot of their records and a lot of their songs leading up to this record, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I know all the words, but I don't know what's going on in the song. These ones I feel like lyrically do make a lot more sense as songs. Not that I think that that's a prerequisite for a good song, but they do. Each one of them, well, not all of them, but most of them, if you're interested in kind of hearing the story lyrically of the song, it makes sense, unlike a lot of their old stuff. Yeah. Stuff from Team Boo, especially. I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, but I love it.
And there's a lot more shouts and bops and stuff in that one.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I probably, likewise, I've heard this album before, but I don't know, maybe I just haven't. I would probably have to listen to it in like a very undistracted environment and like really give it its due, because I didn't dislike it, but it definitely just sort of like happened, and I didn't get I didn't gain traction with it. But again, I think that's just the conditions. Like I gave it 2 or 3 listens, and it's definitely it's cohesive, and it may err on the side of like kind of like everything
Sameness.
flowing very well into the other tracks. And if you have any, you know, in this age of distraction, if you have anything else going on, you can pretty easily lose yourself and lose track of it like you would from an audiobook or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's something that, so I think I, like the way I was listening to it, I may have done it a disservice, and I definitely want to listen more. I wasn't like, oh, I don't like this, but I definitely,
well, I will say
leave,
though,
it didn't leave as deep an impression on me, but I think again, I would just need to just like listen to it a little more, or maybe even also isolate some of the tracks out of context a little bit. And that's the other thing too. If I heard one of these tracks out of context, it's also like, I don't know if I could have picked it out. Like we've been at work, we've been listening to a lot of like, instead of, it's funny, we have like Spotify and Sonos stuff so people can like make whatever playlists, but the standard has been for the past like couple months, someone just puts on a radio station that curates like WFUV, like basically a nonprofit musical radio station with very little commercials, except for when they're pledge driving. Yeah. But it's all like curated music, and they actually have people like request in with tweets and emails and stuff, and so you just get it's music within our bandwidth, and
the circle has completed.
Yeah,
the snake is eating its own tail.
Got to be those tracks in there, but like everything's starting to blend.
Yeah,
it's a big mess.
Well, at work, nobody has the time to curate like a good radio station does. So.
Right.
So that's interesting. I will say one of the fun things about this record is that it makes really great background music, I think, for doing stuff. So I mean, if you don't like kind of like connect with it on a certain level, I still think it makes great music for just playing while you do the dishes and clean the house. And you know, that's not a high bit of praise, and I think a lot of records kind of live up to that standard. But you know, this song kind of motivate. This record has such an energy level that I think it keeps you peppy during all those things. If you you don't have to be in the songs; they're just there happening to you. I think it's well served that way, like an OK Go. I mean, like a Go Team album, the same way.
Yeah, I was trying to. I have no sense of how popular or known this band is. I feel like it's not super well known. And I'm sure a lot. Like, I'm trying to think if I asked all my coworkers, I don't know if anybody would know them, but I'm sure they'd do well enough to keep going. Obviously, so I'm really curious as to.
Yeah, I wonder that too. When they come to New York, they pack a mid-size house like Bowery Ballroom style, which is it's no easy feat. Where did we saw them at the Poisson Rouge. Oh man, the second time I saw them at Le Poisson Rouge, Yola Tango opened for them as a band, as a fake band, like they changed their name. Yeah, it was really
Did they
cool.
just play Yola Tango songs?
Yeah.
Though?
Yep. But they played all their songs of like all their kind of acoustic-y type songs. They didn't. It was really neat. It was a really neat balance between them and Matthew State. But
so how many albums did they have before this one?
I think they have like 3 EPs, and I believe this one was their 6th, but they've had 2 since then, full lengths.
Okay, and they had a covers record too, right?
That was one of the ones the covers one came out right before this.
Okay.
And Mountaintops came out I think 2 years after this, maybe and so then it was a 4-year break for their most recent record, which came out in 2015, which I can't remember the name of.
You're Gonna
Make It. And it has some great video. That has some really fun videos. You got to be ready for an interesting amount of authentic cuteness with this band, I think.
It did send me on a rabbit hole. Maybe, again, I distracted myself from the album a little bit, but I started looking at music videos that Weird Al had directed, not one.
Well, the first one was Ben.
Well, Christmas at Ground Zero was his like first.
Really?
The first movie.
Fishbone?
No, his own video.
Oh.
But he directed like a Hanson music video. I don't know. I'm totally going
What
off
is
topic.
What is the Christmas at Ground Zero? That's not Fishbone? What is it? Oh, that's Party at Ground Zero.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he did a Ben
Rock in the Suburbs.
Yeah, Rock in the Suburbs by
But he did he did like 2 Hanson ones.
Good. Go get it.
Videos. Yeah.
I remember he directed Amish Paradise too. I remember when that came out.
He directed a bunch of his own for sure, but that's an aside. But I watched some of their videos, and then I was like, here's a Weird Al video. What other videos has Weird Al directed?
Isn't YouTube
You
great
are
that
distracted, aren't you?
Yeah. There's one
internet
video
device.
where it was filmed in their neighborhood.
In San Francisco or in
No,
Connecticut?
Get Better is the name of it's the first track on the record, and they made a video for it, and it was all filmed in their neighborhood in Connecticut. I believe they were living in Stamford at the time. Interesting side note to that, it's a beautiful video. I think it's really neatly made. I was playing when people come over to our house, I'm usually playing. There's some music playing in the background often, and one time this was playing the fella who married my wife and I, who officiated the thing, our good friend Naleen, was like, "Oh, this is Mates of State." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "They're Chris's neighbor, right?" So a good friend of ours, who's a friend of Naleen's, like a real old friend of Naleen's, their neighbors is Mates of State. So all their kids go to school together and stuff. It's really funny. And so then I showed him that video, and he's like, "That's their house, is on that same block." So that was a little bit of for real corner.
Cool neighbors.
Yeah.
Do you think that when they were young, they were a couple who they were together, but they wouldn't necessarily get married, like, because a lot of young couples don't get married, but they thought of this great name, Mates of State, and they were like, well, we got to get married so that we can be mates of the state.
Well, you could be Mates of State without being married, I think. Don't you think?
But I think the state indicates a legal...
Is that a legal term?
No. I mean, I don't think the band name is a legal term, but, it's like...
Well, I always wondered where the name... I mean, I understand the concept of Mates of State, but I'm always wondering if that's some play on words of some sort that I don't know of.
I guess I just assumed it's like because the state, you get the marriage license from the state, right?
You're legally...
Like John and I aren't married, we're mates. If we got married, we'd be mates of state.
Maybe.
But we wouldn't really be mates of state because we're not this awesome band.
Yeah. You'd be mates of common law.
Yeah. Which doesn't exist in New York.
Really?
Right.
Wow. Good. Mary, how had you heard this band before? You said you definitely most likely heard this record before.
Yeah, probably from you guys or just the general, I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe they played in Prospect Park, which we have lived by a lot. So I'll look at the, what's playing in the summer concerts and we'll just walk by it. So maybe from that.
Maybe. And when this album came out, I was definitely recommending it to everybody. Yeah. Like probably pushing it on everybody.
Yeah, I don't remember that super well, but yeah, you probably mentioned it, and yeah.
Yeah. So, would you recommend? Like, is this the Mates of State album you would recommend people go listen to?
Well, it all depends on what you want.
Well, what's a gateway drug for Mates of State?
I would recommend this one as a
the
starting
first
point.
one.
Yeah.
I kind of want people to go back to the old stripped down versions first and arrive at this.
Like 1 and 2, their first
Yeah.
albums?
There's a record called Team Boo, I believe it's called. What's the one where they're bringing it all back? I think is a good starting point.
My solo project.
Yeah, going way back to kind of to get the essence of the band. I feel like, and maybe that's not important, but I feel like that there's something special about hearing what the two of them can do together before you go into the kind of fully orchestrated, like with a horn section and with another keyboard player and a bassist kind of stuff.
Right.
Because it's amazing. It's literally amazing what they're able to do with just the two of them.
Do they have like a newer album, like a really recent album?
They had one that came out last year.
Okay.
It's an EP. It's only like 5 tracks. It's called You're Gonna Make It.
Yeah. And there's a really, really cute video I think it's called Staring Contest. Is that the first track?
Yes.
Staring Contest. Look up the video. It's really cute. It's their daughters. Who are, getting much older now. I went down, just like John went down a rabbit hole. I went down a rabbit hole of reading reviews of this record, and I landed on a Pitchfork review, which wasn't very favorable of this album. So,
really?
So if you are a fan of Pitchfork, maybe this isn't the record to start on.
Well, what was their criticism?
They just
wait, who was the critic?
Former guest of our show, Adam Mader.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And it must have been before we had known him.
It was 2008.
Yeah. So I think that was before I knew him.
Well, we should have. We gotta have him on for this.
I would love to have read parts of that review because it was kind of difficult to get. I mean, the modern kids lingo, I guess, is what. Because I was just like, not making sense of it. But no, his whole thing was, like that. I guess there was a kind of a Mates of State was lumped into this. People were categorizing it along with a bunch of other bands as I think they called it like glee rock, like I forget. It was a play on
core.
It was something like that. It was like cute core or something like that. Their analysis was that this had come to an end and that the band didn't know about it yet or something. But I honestly didn't see many bad reviews of the record, though. Honestly.
He just didn't like it because they don't wear cool masks.
Well, no, he was like, remember what he said when he was like, yeah, that was old people music.
Yep.
Yeah. But if you're out there listening at him, well done. I liked the review. It was really fun.
I hate it.
He did say it was a record to do the dishes to. Like, specifically, like one of the recommendations of it.
Did he?
Yeah.
Nice.
I did happen to not find many bad reviews of the record. It was actually very well received at the time. So
on like LimeWire and Napster.
All the LimeWire reviews and comments.
Yeah. But this was after that, right?
Yeah, I think you got to go back even further.
Yeah.
We're even.
Yeah, we got the old stuff off.
This
of
was 2000. Was this what 2008?
Yeah, 2008 is when this came out. Back when I was actually paying money on iTunes for records.
So right now, again, you can listen to this pretty much anywhere, right? Like.
Yep. I would recommend going down and watching some of their stuff on YouTube because there's, like I said, a lot of really fun videos. A lot of them have that kind of homemade feel that I find adorable. So
cool. And then, do they still play live?
I didn't see whether or not, but I mean, for years they've just been touring forever. So I'm assuming that they do, but they haven't had a record in a while, so maybe they've toned it down.
Do you think they got day jobs?
Corey, the singer, the wife, is a trained teacher. She was teaching in California when they started Mates of State, and I forget her husband's name. He was going to med school when they started the band, so maybe he only had a couple years. Maybe he's a doctor now.
Whoa.
Yeah, maybe he's a traveling doctor. And she's a traveling teacher.
Yeah.
And so when they tour, they're
they
also
homeschooled,
fixing up people.
Well, there was I found a couple of interesting. For some reason, ABC News really loved Mates of State there for a while because they had a couple of different like video news items about them,
just like behind the scenes segments.
Yeah, and in one of there was a big long news story about them. They're a rock band that bring their babies on tour with them. What's it like balancing this life? Yeah, so
maybe one of their neighbors works for ABC News.
Yeah, maybe. That story's out there. If you hang out on YouTube for long enough, you'll find it.
Cool. Any last thoughts, Mary?
Nope. Like listen to it.
Jules, any last thoughts?
Spring break.
Spring break forever. Spring break, bitches. So Mates of State, Rearrange Us.
Rearrange Us.
All right.
But really any of their records, let's face it.
They're good stuff all the way across the board.
Yeah, very few duds in their whole oeuvre.
Well, it was a good pick, Keith. Thank you for bringing it to the table.
Thanks, Keith.
Glad everybody liked it.
Politics for a while. Let the color schemes arrive. Got your politics for a while. Let the color schemes arrive.
Such a question, there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Feel I'm alone in this.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of The New to You Show. I was one of your hosts, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. And you can listen to my other podcast, Board Ghost, at boardghost.com. Keith, where can people find you?
Earthlingkeith.com is where you can see my many portfolio pieces.
All right. And Jules, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at BeautifulJules. How about you, Mary?
MaryVarn.com.
All right.
Oh, that's easy.
So, Mary, what's new to you this week?
The series Brooklyn Nine-Nine is new to me.
That's
this
new
week.
to you.
It is, yeah. So John and I recently started watching this on Hulu because we'd never watched it. And we're like, packing for a move. And so this is like our nice little break. It's, we don't feel like we can watch a long show. We just want to watch a sitcom. And we've really gotten into it. And we're only in season 1. but it's just really fun. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Oh, I've seen every episode.
Oh, okay.
I've only seen the pilot.
Yeah, so it took me
It
a little
finds
bit to,
itself. It finds
Yeah.
itself in the second season. If you already like it, you're gonna really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a little while to warm up to it, but it's so goofy.
Mm-hmm.
The crime isn't serious at all. They're in this fake Brooklyn precinct that there's a map on the wall. It's actually
It's like
the
half
precinct.
the precinct is Park Slope.
It's the precinct we live in,
And the rest
which
is the park.
isn't, yeah, actually true. And but you just get to know the characters and blah 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 blah.
What little like police action crime is in the show is totally gone very soon.
Oh, really?
After a while, it's just kind of like they're no longer kind of. It's like Cops is just the backdrop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the character that really starts to take the fore as time. I mean, it's not like he runs the show, but he becomes like so amazing. Commander Holt.
Oh, cool.
He
Yeah,
just
he's great.
is great, and that the actor who's
And a lot of it has to do with just like embracing the name.
but Brower, what's his
Brower, yeah.
And Andre.
Yeah, Andre Brower,
Yeah.
I think, or Bauer or something, is just amazing at that role. And to be able to pull that off is not easy.
Yeah.
And he just, man, it's so good.
Yeah, I want to
it's
see
very fun.
bloopers where he like cracks up.
Yeah, there have to be
Yeah.
hours of that because I don't know how you can keep that up
Yeah.
with a straight face. Eventually, a new character comes in and out a little bit. His name is the actor who plays him is Jason Mantzoukas, and it's awesome. His character on that show just runs away with it. In fact, it's like, man, make him a full-time cast member, please. He's so good on the show.
Nice.
You might know Jason Mantzoukas from the How Did This Get Made podcast, or he's an actor, and as soon as you see him, you recognize the guy. He's in a lot of stuff.
Cool.
Yep.
All right.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Good pick, Mary.
Yeah.
Where can
Thanks.
people watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
We've been watching it on Hulu.
All right. And it's probably on iTunes and all that stuff.
Yep.
if you
New
wanna go
episodes
that
still
way.
come out on Fox.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next week, we are going to continue our theme of spring with whose pick?
Mine.
With Mary's
Mary Vaughn's pick.
All right. Mary, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what they should do in preparation for next week?
So my pick is the story of Ferdinand the Bull. I actually have not read the children's book, but if you just Google Ferdinand the Bull Disney, you'll find the Disney cartoon and just watch that.
So that'll be next week's second spring pick in the second season or whatever. I don't know. That'll be the second pick of our spring thing.
Oh yeah, we're in the second season
We're in
of
third-
our show,
the
which
third
is
season.
spring.
We're in the third season
third
of our
spring
show.
and third season of spring.
Springin'.
Anyway,
Yeah. I don't know. Oh yeah,
you've already said that.
I've said all that. To find out more about the hosts, the content that we discussed in the show, and all kinds of good stuff, go check out our website, newtoyoushow.com. We're also on Twitter, where we just kind of blast the same stuff at newtoyoushow on Twitter. And yeah, that's about it. Go please rate and review on iTunes, and more importantly, let people know about the show. If there's something that you thought we had an interesting take on, or were silly enough for somebody and you think they might like listening to our dulcet tones, share the show, please. Make it new to them.
And if you heard my section talking about Adam Mader's review from Pitchfork, you can go back and listen to those episodes that Adam was in.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in at least 8, right?
At least.
No, because he was in the music one, season 1 as well.
Yeah.
So,
And I've
probably
heard it's a
12.
great podcast to listen to while you're doing the dishes.
It really is.
All right. All right, gang. It may not be new, but maybe it was
New to you! Explosion sound!
Pitiful life is all about the music. This pitiful life is all about the music.
With him together forever, without the limitation of time ever again. So the second coming of the Lord is not